Welcome back to Through the Veil podcast. Today we're going to pick up where we left off with Elisa and continue our conversation. Let's jump in where we left off. So there's a lot of reasons why they stay. And I think this is a good time to maybe talk about the differences in that.
Hmm.
With spirit communication, generally, somebody like me who does this, frequently, semi-professionally, you're mostly interacting with those spirits that have crossed over, that are moved through, that veil into what comes next, into the spirit world. Um, but there are spirits that do choose not to do that, who
Who
choose
would
to stay.
choose that? Why wouldn't you want to go over there? I guess I just, yeah.
There's a lot of
The
reasons,
unknown.
like you were saying. Yeah. Like I've interacted, living very, very close to Gettysburg for many, many years.
So
Hmm.
Talk
jealous.
about a haunted place. Yeah.
Yeah, right?
There's a lot of stuff happening in that town still to this day. And there were a lot of soldiers that I interacted with, and a lot of times it's fear-based because they don't know what comes next when that moment comes for them to cross over. And no one dies alone. There's always people there, but
Right.
sometimes you still have choice, you still
Of
have
course, we all
agency.
have
And
free will. Yeah.
right. And that free will, you can choose not to move on. You can choose to stay for whatever reason, sometimes it's also for things like protection. Like some of these soldiers, for instance, for example, chose to stay and protect their battalion or stay and protect their battle buddies, the people that they were with on the battlefield who
Mhm.
were either injured or, still seeing action, and they chose to be loyal and stay. Well, then at that point, they didn't know where else to go or what else to do. They were still just stuck here, or they had guilt that they were afraid of moving on and facing the light, right? Or being unwilling to leave their family or something like that. There are a lot of reasons that people end up staying.
Yeah. I mean, free will always, that's one of the big laws of the universe.
Right. God respects your will. He respects your
Exactly.
choice.
And like you have your agency, and then there's opposition in all things. All things.
Right.
So to me, that tells me that there's a choice to go and a choice to stay. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
And
would say like 90% of spirits go.
oh, yeah.
90%.
oh
I
yeah.
mean, you see your grandma there when you've had a car accident, she's like, come, and you're like, yes,
I'm
Yeah.
90% of people will go. But there are always outliers. There are always people who have a different set of circumstances.
Right. And I would imagine that while they're earthbound, they would have people visiting them saying, hey, are you ready to come over? And they say, I'm not ready. And just, it's not like you have one option and then you're stuck for centuries.
Well, this is an interesting topic. And of course, we don't really know fully how this occurs because
Absolutely.
I'm still in a physical body. I have not died yet. When I do, I'll let you know.
Yeah, there's so many
But
questions.
but in my experience, having interacted with a lot of these spirits as well, and Elisa, feel free to chip in as well, but um it a lot of times one of the reasons that they stay is because of perspective. And I know I've talked about the staircase metaphor on the
Mhm.
podcast before as well. Even people who cross through the veil sometimes end up at the bottom of that staircase where, it's hell because of the place where you can see. Your perspective is like you have blinders on. You can only see this much. You can't see any of the stuff out here. And so you only see what you are allowing yourself to see, whether that is clouded by anger or guilt or jealousy or, whatever. And I feel like earthbound spirits have a very similar thing. So I have interacted with numerous spirits who didn't know, and for some reason just that knowledge of not knowing how to transition over was their block, or they were unwilling yet to accept that. And so even just the choice of being unwilling, they were unable to perceive other spirit beings of, a higher nature who
Hmm.
were willing to help them and wanted to pull them through. So a lot of it has to do with where they're at and the limits that they're giving themselves, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, I I think that there's a lot of different things that can go into play on why somebody doesn't cross over, you know, however you want to say it, and be with their families and their loved ones, and where things are going to be amazing and there's so much growth and learning happening. Um, but I think if you don't grow up with that knowledge, you're not
Right.
taught that knowledge, and you don't have that understanding or that capacity to realize, okay, well, I didn't think there was life after death, but now I'm
Obvious.
still here. So there's got to be something, but I don't know if I'm ready for that. Like,
Right.
because there's just so much to grasp. There's so much to understand. And so I would hope that, like, for those spirits that choose not to go to the next step, that they learn and understand and finally decide, okay, well, I'm ready. And part of me
Yeah.
wonders if that's not going to happen for a while for a lot of them because time is
Yeah.
different.
Years. Right. And they experience time completely differently. I mean,
Mhm.
you have some places where spirits have been around for hundreds of years haunting places, right?
Mhm.
Um, I think there's also reasons sometimes with people's own personal beliefs. I interacted with one spirit, for example, and when he passed, his head was separated from his body. And due to his own personal religious belief system, he believed when you passed, you had to have your whole body be whole and have like certain rites and rituals done to that body before you could be, free to move on. And so he stayed for 200 years because he didn't have that wholeness of his body. His body had been separated. Um, and so I think a lot of times that what you perceive, your own personal beliefs, really affect how you move into your afterlife as well.
Well, and
Next life.
like they say, like, learn as much as you can because you're going to take that with you into the next life.
Right.
You're not going to change your personality
Right.
just because
Your
you die.
beliefs.
I
Right.
mean, I
So,
feel like with mental health, that's a sickness that will be lifted, just like a physical
right,
ailment would be, which
right.
sometimes I
Yeah, like a
think
biological issue
affects.
in your body. Yeah,
Yeah, I
because you no
think
longer have
like,
your body.
right, brain chemistry can affect personality a little bit, but I mean, you
Sure.
are intrinsically who you are, right?
Hmm.
Yes. Meaning like the things that you understand and that the your personality traits and things like that. Or
Yeah,
Your
you
perspective,
don't
the way
become
you view
this
the world.
amazing person when you die if you were a terrible person when you died.
right.
Hmm.
Like it's not like a light switch goes off and you all of a sudden everything's different and changes, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And I feel that it's something that's got to be learned and progressed and taught to you.
Right. There is a shift because, being in spirit, people who are in spirit, they no longer have physical boundaries, physical
Limitations.
obstructions to the things
Mhm.
that they can experience. And so when you're open and you allow yourself that kind of growth, you can obtain a whole different perspective of reality, right? You can obtain somebody else's perspective. You can learn what their experience was like and what their experience was like, as well as what your experience is. You go from seeing here to seeing here, but you have to be in a place where you can allow yourself change and progression and growth. And not everybody exits this life immediately willing to make
Yeah.
those kinds of leaps, right?
Well, and
Mhm.
you think about like people who um, are addicted to something, but
Right,
they like
Mm,
their
yeah.
addiction. And it's like you don't just not become addicted. It's something that you have to learn and that you have to get through. And I feel like that's kind of how it is when you die. And it's like it's not that you're just gonna everything's gonna be hunky
right,
dory. I mean, I do think like you're going to be healthy. I think your mind's going to be cleared. I do think those things, I do believe those things. But where your personality comes into play and who
right,
you are as a person, those are the things that are going to be needed for growth, for change and to bring in the ability to have that open up and
right.
have greater understanding of what the spirit world really is and how amazing it is.
Yeah.
Which is another obstacle to overcome if you have those kinds of dependencies. Bringing it back to paranormal investigation, for instance, there are numerous spirits, like the concept of trigger objects, using something that maybe like alcohol is a frequent one to use. Something maybe that they maybe enjoyed a little too much in life, or smoking cigarettes, and like leaving that object out for them because even then their spirit still hungers it. Right? Their
Mhm.
spirit still wants that. It pulls them in even though they can't physically experience that any longer.
Oh yeah, and we've done that lots of times. We'll put
Yeah.
out if we feel like there was kids that passed away or whatever, we'll put out little cars or balls
Hmm.
or stuffed animal Or if it's an adult who loved to play a sport, we'll bring that ball, like a soccer ball or, whatever. And it's interesting that I have gotten many EVPs, electronic voices, on my recorder by bringing in objects, and I
Yeah.
have conversation, and it's amazing. So it works.
Do you feel like the majority of the spirits you interact with when you ghost hunt are earthbound, or do you feel like you said it's mostly just people on the other side that are just interacting?
They're
Yeah.
different. They're different things.
Right.
Hmm.
Do you feel that you're mostly getting the earthbound spirits, or is it just yeah?
I
Okay.
do. And that's because a lot of the places that I have been throughout this journey, um, have been homes where people are struggling
Hmm.
as they're teenagers getting into drugs or getting into things that they shouldn't be doing, and bringing it into the house, or somebody else has an addiction to something, whatever. And um, it just, it's like they kind of just gravitate to that because it was an addiction that they had on earth that they desire and yearn for now. And so it's something they can't obtain, so we would experience a lot of that.
Can I
And
add to that, Elisa, that I think my own theory also is that when you're creating an environment that's conducive, what you're putting out is what you're going to
Right.
attract.
Kind of
oh,
that
100%.
energy.
Right. So
hundred
if you are lowering the energy of your home, like the sacredness of your home to a point by doing actions or doing things that bring that down to a lower level, it's going to be a conducive environment for those things to come in. It is harder for those things to come in when you are living a life or when you're creating an atmosphere that is at a higher level, right?
Right.
So those behaviors, it's going to bring that because they're comfortable there. They're looking for
Right.
places they can be comfortable.
Yep.
Yes. They'll feel at home there.
Yep. And then in places that I've been to that aren't people's homes, and some of the homes that I've been to, it's just grandma that lived with them for a while and before she passed away and
Or
is
grandma
still
that used to live in the house that's not their grandma, but still.
that could be it too.
Other grandmas.
Um, and I've had lots of family members, but I would say the majority are people who were just like you or I, and we call them type ones. Type one meaning it's a good person on earth and they're a good person after they just
A
decided not
normal
to
person.
head,
Yeah.
yep, go to the next step. So, and sometimes they're just excited to talk to you because they don't get to talk to people.
They don't
And
know they're there or don't have communication capacity.
yeah, and so what I find is when I go to these places, it's like sometimes I get flocked to and sometimes they scurry. And it's like,
Oh boy.
I don't want to be around her. I know it can happen with people like her. And so, and the really good people that are just like you and I, they'll come to me and want to have that conversation, and then they leave and they go to the next stage in their life,
They feel fulfilled. They've met something that they were lacking.
and they feel comfortable enough. Like it's like when you get you want to buy something but you have to look at the reviews first before you buy it,
Yeah.
Mm.
and so they're coming to you for a review, like, are you sure this is going to be good? Can I trust you? Can I, and
Spirit communication is just walking therapy. That's what
totally
it
a
is.
Do they
hundred
do
percent
they pay you for your time, Elisa? I'm just wondering.
No. I mean, hopefully in heaven I'll get paid. Like I'll have
They lack the monetary resources to be very fruitful clients, but
just go tell
the
your friends.
emotional blessings are well secured.
That's what I'm hoping for. But yeah, so
So
it's
can I ask,
wide range.
how have you felt within the paranormal investigation community? How have you felt um, your gifts are accepted, and or are you always open about it? How does the community generally receive people who have these kinds of talents?
Um, it really depends on the person. It depends
Mhm.
on the group. And because there are quite a few paranormal groups out there. Each one has a different vibe. And sometimes there's a vibe, and it's not really a vibe you want to be with. But in the groups that I have been in, I've been very lucky I feel blessed to be in the groups that I've been in because they don't focus on the negative. They don't focus on um, searching that out. Like
It's
it's
really important. It's
for
a
the
really
most
important
part, it's
distinction.
been to help,
Right.
and the group that I'm in
Intention
now,
is everything in this
yes,
gift, in any
Yes.
gift. Intention is everything.
Tension. Yeah.
yes. And like my parents were rightfully so nervous about me going into ghost hunting because there is a vibe, you know,
Right.
there is this persona of what ghost hunting is and that it's evil and that it's, all these things. But for me, that's not been the case. And, um, but I feel like with everything that I've learned, that I have just grown exponentially with it because the people in the community are so welcoming to it and they
Hmm.
love you. If you have a spiritual gift, they want you there because for them, that's another piece of evidence. And if you
Right.
could correlate
You can
your
confirm evidences.
what you're getting with the evidence
Mm,
that they're getting, then it's like,
mm,
okay, this is legit,
The
because
second
yeah.
witness.
uh-huh.
Helpful.
Yes. Yep.
Well, and also, your desire to join this group wasn't really strictly entertainment. It was to help alleviate some problems in your own life
To
and to get some
understand it.
understand.
Mm.
Yeah. So this seems like God led you to this group that's doing positive things that are more like wholesome because he needed to help you find a solution.
I
Yeah,
love that.
and I did not want to be afraid for the rest of my life. That is not something that I wanted.
Well, what is that scripture that says that like pure love casteth out all fear,
All
something like
fear.
that?
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's in Moroni.
And
Or is
and
it biblical too? I feel like there's a biblical one as well, somewhere in the New Testament.
I don't know scripture well enough.
Perfect love casts out all fear.
Perfect love, not
Mhm.
pure. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I felt like out of all of the groups that I could have joined, that was the best group for me
Mhm.
specifically. A lot because of the influence of the church in this group. There were members, or there were people in my group that were not members,
Mm-hmm. That's a
but they
mix.
respected the fact of what we believed, and they did the same things that we believed. And so I think that was the best way for me to learn and to grow and to have that understanding to not be afraid of
Yeah.
what was going
Which
This
on with
is so important. And how
so
amazing that the path is so tailored for every person. Like when you have sincerity, when you have true intention, like it is not meant to be for your own benefit or for your own monetary gain or something like that. The guidance is there and you find it sooner or later. Like if you have that true intention, it stumbles upon you. And that's so amazing.
Yeah, and that was kind of the whole point of that first group that I was in because we helped so many people in their homes. Like I was gone ugh, once a week, sometimes twice a week, and sometimes every other week. But it was a lot,
Hmm.
and I would go to every one that I could get my butt in because I felt like each time I learned something new and I grew a little bit more and became less afraid and my confidence was
Amazing.
growing and we
How do you
never
feel like it
part.
informed your faith?
Oh man. Um, it took it to a different level.
Like a
Um,
real level?
what?
Like a real level?
Yeah, a little bit more realistic. Um, I think it was, oh gosh, probably about year or two into it is when I really started feeling good, where I'm like, I could go in there all by myself and not have problems, and I can be in the pitch black and I don't even care. 2 years before that, I could never say something like that, right? And so but I would never go in alone or anything like that, but the confidence there. And then you realize like the gospel changes so much uh with you yourself. Not that the gospel changes, but it changes you. And
Right.
so to be able, I felt somewhat like a missionary almost in a sense. And it sounds so weird because you're like, I'm a missionary for the dead. And
Well, I mean,
figure it out.
people
Go
on the
help
other
out some dead
side
people,
do
find
that.
Christianity.
Well, I don't think
Yeah,
it sounds weird because you're alive, but I know people that go to the other side and they do that work all the time. It's just that if they're the reality is that there are earthbound spirits, who's going to be ministering to them? It
Yeah.
requires
right.
people with your skill set.
Yeah. And I
Ministering
feel,
being helping them to find redemption, helping them to
Hmm.
find that path that they're not seeing themselves.
Helping them to be happier, more
and to
fulfilled,
give
Yeah,
to
that just
progress.
understanding of, okay, it's going to be good. It's going to be okay. And my family's there and they love me. And there's infinite love and wisdom, and you're going to grow and be better. Like, do you want to stay stagnant? No. Like, you want to keep moving and growing and becoming a better human being, a better person, a better spirit. You want, that's kind of like the point in life, right? And so to teach them that and say, and guess what? There's people over there that have the gospel, that something you might not know about, that will help you understand all of this and this whole purpose, this whole point, and bring you back to your family. And, like, don't you want to be with your family? I'm going to be with my family. Yes, you're going to be with your family. Like, if you want, they will come, you
Yeah.
know? And so giving them that understanding, and it is really empowering and it feels so good, and you can feel the room
right.
changes completely from
The whole
when
vibe, everything
100%
changes.
from when they're there and they're with you and they're nervous, you feel that.
Mm-hmm.
But then when they're comforted and they move on, it's like the room feels clear and clean and good.
Mm-hmm.
You There's no nervousness, there's no scared, there's no intimidation, because I think some people, they put up a front, some spirits put up a front because they're scared.
Okay.
Right. Just
So,
like people, just like
yeah,
people.
Because
And
they're
I think the
people.
other facet that goes in with that is like because of them, it affects the people in the places that they are, especially in things like private homes. And I know in the last episode I told a story about a woman whose brother was in her house. It was the same circumstance. He wasn't a malicious spirit, but it was causing a very negative impact on the family because of lack of understanding. And being able to go into a place and give light and give understanding where there wasn't one before, it casts out fear, right? Knowledge casts out fear. And to be able to be the one who brings that light, I mean, how amazing. That's Christianity, right? Be the
right?
light, bring the light, give the light, which is Jesus Christ. And I'm going to butcher it. I think of this scripture all the time, and I need to like write down the reference because my memory is so poor. I think it's in either Thessalonians or Ephesians, but I can't recall. But it says, it talks about like the gospel of Christ is meant to bring those who are in this world and in heaven and like the spirit world and this world essentially and bring them together all in the gospel of Christ. And is that not exactly what that is? Right?
Yeah.
It's exactly what that is. It's maybe a little less conventional than most
Yeah.
people would think of that, but it is exactly what that is.
Well, and what I've noticed is the more I continue to do that, the less that I had negative things around me.
Right.
And
And that's
the
huge.
less I experienced those things. And all of a sudden it's like, there's good.
Mm-hmm.
There's
Yeah.
all of this is good
Be the
that I'm
good.
dealing with at this
Bring the
place,
good.
You're
you
empowered.
know? And
Yeah, with
because
tools.
I feel like because my energy level rose significantly because of the
Could we
confidence
say
I had, my
your faith
understanding,
level? Yeah, your
with faith,
understanding level.
100%. 'Cause to me, it's almost the same thing,
It
like,
is, yeah.
yeah. So it's because of that, it was like it almost dispelled like anything that was negative that was there that didn't have good intentions, it wouldn't come around me.
Right.
Mm.
So it was like almost everything that I was doing was a really cool experience, really fun. But if there was something negative, it almost
Avoided.
sometimes it
It
would
didn't
like
like you
make it,
anymore.
no, it was like it made its presence known that it was there and then would go. Like, I'm here,
So
go.
vibrationally, I mean, even spiritually, have you ever been around somebody who like enters the room and you're like, they're a light. Like they
Yes.
give that. They give that love, they give that positivity, they just give when I feel like when you grow this gift, when you grow intention, when you have that pure soul, you carry the light. When you have that faith, you carry the light and you bring that into a space. And just the presence of you is expansion. It's brightness. It lifts the energy of the area to a point where those things are not comfortable there any longer. They have to leave or they have to move on or they can't influence because you're the light. Darkness can't overcome light, no
Mhm.
matter, what level it is. So that's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This has been an incredible conversation, Elisa. I am so glad you came here. I don't have a lot of exposure to this world of ghost hunting, so I really appreciate all the information that we got from you
Yeah,
today.
thanks for having me. That was awesome. It's
Yeah,
fun to
I
share the
think
stories.
we'll probably have to have you back. I think
absolutely.
this would be a really fun Halloween episode. Share some experiences, maybe. I feel like a lot of people are like low key curious about paranormal investigation and or experiences. I mean, almost 50% of people in the United States believe in ghosts. And we could up that a little bit maybe. But I think sharing those kinds of experiences would be really fun. And we should talk about how we met because it is a really awesome story.
Right?
But if you have questions about this topic and or questions about things that we discussed today, please email us. Please go on our website, leave a comment below, and we would love to dive into this further.
Yeah. We'll see you guys next time.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.